worked the night shift alone at a 24-hour 7-Eleven just outside Detroit. The store sat on a quiet corner, neon lights humming, parking lot empty. I remember that I forgot to refill the slushy machine before my shift. It dripped sticky syrup on the floor all night, but I was too busy stocking chips to care. Around 2:30 a.m., I was behind the counter, wiping down the glass case, when a guy in a dark hoodie walked in. He pulled the hood tight so I couldn't see his face. He just stood in aisle 3 near the energy drinks, staring at the shelves. I thought he might grab something soon, but he stayed there and stayed. 40 minutes passed. I kept glancing over while I straightened candy bars. I told myself he was just indecisive. I told myself to mind my own business. But then I noticed he hadn't moved a step. His hands were in his pockets. His head tilted like he was listening for something. I heard the old fluorescent lights buzz. I felt my chest tighten. Finally, I walked down the aisle. I said, "Hey, you need any help?" My voice echoed weirdly. He didn't answer. He just stared. I cleared my throat and said, everything okay?" He didn't blink. He just stared. I felt sweat on my neck. I backed away and said, "All right, cool. I'll be back at the counter." I tried to sound casual. My hand shook as I flipped the price labels. I went back behind the counter and called my manager, Lisa. I stepped outside, phone to my ear. I told her, "There's this guy in aisle 3. He's been there forever." She said she'd send someone tomorrow. I said, "No, like now." She paused. I heard her sigh. "Stay safe," she said, and hung up. While I was on the phone, I saw movement by the back exit. The man dropped the hood and ran. He sprinted past the door, kicked it open, and disappeared into the alley. I froze, phone still pressed to my ear. I said, "He just ran out the back." Lisa yelled, "Call 911." I did. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the empty lot. Later, during shift change, the day manager, Carlos, checked the security feed. He zoomed in on aisle 3. I watched over his shoulder. The guy hadn't stood still. He'd been hiding behind shelves, holding up his phone camera. I felt sick. He'd been recording me the whole time. My stupid smile when I said, "Hey," my shaky hands, I looked like an idiot. Carlos paused the video. The man's face came into view for a second. I recognized him from the police bulletin. Wanted for 2 gas station robberies and a missing person from a town 20 miles away. The same hoodie, the same blank stare. I quit that day. I left my name tag in the drawer. I told Lisa I found another job. I lied. I told Carlos I was going back to school. I didn't sleep for nights. I kept picturing him behind the shelves, phone glowing in the dark. I kept hearing that buzz from the lights. Now, sometimes when I drive past a 7-Eleven at night, I slow down. I check the aisles through the glass. I wonder if he's there, hiding again, recording someone else, waiting for that moment to sprint out the back. I don't know what happened to him after the police got the video. I hope they caught him, but I'm not sure. And that thought, it still scares me more than anything. I work as assistant manager at a 7-Eleven in Nevada. I usually close up alone. The store sits on a quiet street, neon sign buzzing. I remember I forgot to sweep under the slushy machine that night. I told myself I'd do it later. Around 1 a.m., I finished restocking the fridge. I grabbed a case of energy drinks and pushed it into the walk-in cooler. The door swung shut behind me, but then I noticed it was ajar, like someone had left it open. I frowned. I was sure I'd closed it tight earlier. I shrugged. I thought maybe a gust of wind from outside. I stepped inside, my boots echoing on the concrete floor. The air was cold, and the hum of the compressor filled my ears. I stacked the drinks and turned to leave. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. I jumped. I reached for the handle. It didn't move. I yanked. Nothing. I tugged again, harder. My arms burned. I knocked on the door. "Hello? Hey." My voice sounded small in that space. I tried my radio, no signal. My phone showed no bars. I called the opener, Jake, but it went straight to voicemail. I whispered, "Come on, pick up." I leaned against the door, breathing fast. I heard my heart pounding in my ears. I looked around. Just boxes of soda, empty crates, and the light overhead flickering. I remembered the floorboards creaked in my apartment when my cat ran across them. Here, nothing creaked, just the compressor's buzz. It felt too quiet. I sat on a crate, my legs shook. I took out my phone and tried again. Voicemail. I texted Jake. "Stuck in cooler, door locked." No reply. I stared at the wall. I thought about kicking the door in, but it was metal. I thought about screaming. But what if no one heard? Time passed. I counted in my head. 1 minute, 2, 3. My hands were numb. I rubbed them on my jeans. I tried the handle again. It gave a tiny click but stayed shut. After what felt like forever, maybe 50 minutes, I heard footsteps outside. I pounded on the door. "Jake, you here?" The lock turned. The door swung open and fresh air hit me. I stumbled out, blinking. Jake stood there, flashlight in hand. He looked pale. I asked, "What took you so long?" He swallowed and said, "You've got to see the footage." He led me to the office. On the security monitor, I watched. A man in a ski mask slipped into the cooler just before I did. He moved to the corner, crouched, and waited. When I walked in, he stayed still until the door shut behind me. Then he reached over, clicked the lock, and slipped out another way. He just wanted to trap me. Nothing was stolen. He didn't take cash or snacks. He wanted to scare me. I remember thinking he might come back for more. I felt sick watching it. I quit that job a week later. I told them I found a new position. I never went back. Sometimes I lie awake and I hear a door slam in my head. I wonder if he's out there waiting for someone else to close that cooler door. I still don't know why he picked me, and I don't know if he ever got caught. That mystery, it's the thing that haunts me the most. I'm Maya, 19, and I worked evening shifts at a 7-Eleven in rural Kansas. I was 3 months pregnant and needed the extra cash, so I took the job even though I always felt a bit uneasy. The store was small, on a quiet street with not much around, and the parking lot was empty most nights. But every shift, one thing always stood out. A red sedan parked across the lot. Its headlights were off, and it just sat there in the dark. I'd see it when I walked in, and it always made my skin crawl. I told my friends, but they said I was just overthinking it. One night, I was closing up. The store was quiet, except for the sound of the registers and the soft hum of the fridge. I kept glancing at the window, and sure enough, the red car was there again. Then my boyfriend called. I answered, and I told him about the car. He said, "Snap a photo, babe." "Prove it to me." I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't really feeling it, but he insisted. I lifted my phone, aimed it at the sedan, and clicked a picture. Right then, the car sped off. I watched it take off in a flash, tires screeching, leaving a blurry streak of red on my phone. I felt a chill I couldn't shake off. The next day, I showed the photo to my manager and filed a report. The police said they'd check it out, but nothing happened. I tried to forget it, but it kept nagging at me. Then, 2 days later, I worked a late shift. I was the last one there when my coworker, Jess, came to walk me to my car. I gathered my things and stepped outside. A few spots away, Jess called out, "Maya, come here. Look at this." I hurried over to my car and saw a zip tie wrapped around the passenger door handle. I removed it slowly, my hands shaking, and I couldn't help but think about all the warnings I'd read online about zip ties being used to mark women for abduction. Jess and I stood there in silence, our eyes darting around as if we expected someone to jump out of the dark. I called the police again, and they took a report, but nothing else came of it. That night, I couldn't sleep well. Every little noise made me jump, and I kept thinking about that red sedan and the zip tie on my car. I wondered if I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. After that, I never worked a shift alone again. I switched to a schedule with more people around, but the image of that dark car still haunts me. I left that job soon after. Now, whenever I drive at night, I always check my mirrors twice. I still get that uneasy feeling when I see a car parked silently by the roadside. I'll never know if that car was just a coincidence or something more. And that mystery, it's something I carry with me every day.